Today, get ready. I'm chatting with Jay Steinfeld, founder and CEO of Blinds.com. In 1993, he bootstrapped his company into becoming the #1 online window coverings retailer in the world. And then in 2014, sold it to Home Depot. Now, today he continues to lead the brand and is also part of Home Depot's online leadership team. So I'm super excited to have him here because we're also going to be talking about his big brother, little brother strategy. Something that isn't talked about much, but it's a strategy that got Blinds.com sold to Home Depot. And today you're going to learn exactly how he did it. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of SplitBase. This is Minds of eCommerce. Now, this episode is brought to you by SplitBase. At SplitBase, we help leading 8- and 9-figure brands such as Dr Squatch, Hyperice, and Amica grow through customer-focused conversion optimization programs. We pinpoint exactly where your website is losing most money, and then, we help you fix it. The result, you get increased conversions, higher AOV, and of course, more money, which in return allows you to scale advertising profitably. We've been at it for over a decade and can help you manage from A to Z. So request a proposal today on SplitBase.com to learn how we can help you get the most out of your marketing spend. All right, Jay, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Raphael, thanks for having me.
Now, as you know, right, this podcast is all about going deep, dissecting one key growth strategy so our listeners can get the most value right away. And you definitely have one that you, I'm sure, could talk about for hours. And that's your big brother, little brother strategy. So before we actually dive into it, and I want to know all the details, but can you give a bit of an overview to our listeners? What is the big brother, little brother strategy?
The big brother, little brother strategy is something that I read in a book, Blueprint to a Billion by David Thompson. And it was strategy number 4. I thought, that makes sense. I think I'm going to try that. We actually did it by accident because what that strategy is where a small company, like what we used to be, because it started in my house. It was just me taking phone calls out of my car even. So we were very small. And when a small company can ride the coattails of a larger company, well, we're the little brother, the big company is the big brother. An example of that is when Microsoft partnered with Dell. That's like the textbook approach to big brother, little brother. So they got into all the computers and Microsoft became Microsoft. Another example is it's a company that I'm involved with now called Prefix, which does service around the home, and they're partnering with insurance companies, USAA. And USAA loves to have them get into the house to help with their underwriting. So it's a partnership that's a growth strategy that is helping that company and other companies grow. And it's something that we decided to do as well, again, by accident.
Amazing.
We started by building a technology for designers. We thought we could use designers as a way to come up with a new channel. Well, that strategy actually did not work. And I'm not going to go into why it didn't work, but it turned out to be a bad strategy, but good because we built the technology to create websites for all these individual designers.
Interesting.
So when it didn't work, we still had the technology. And one day, Sears, of all companies, contacted us and said, we want to get into the blinds business. We don't have the capability to do it. Will you run that for us and use technology? And well, we had the technology and we said, sure, we would love to do it. Now we were battling with a lot of big established companies, and by a miracle, we did get it, which was amazing. And then we became the little brother to the big brother of Sears. And that was a very successful partnership, alliance, really, because we already had the technology and we just had to integrate with this massive organization, which we did in 90 days, which is unheard of if you try to integrate with a large public enterprise company. But we did that so well that we said, this could be a growth strategy that we can do some more of. So we contacted Wayfair. Wayfair said, yeah, we would like to get into the blind business. How long is this going to take? I said, well, we did the whole thing in 90 days and we can get you in the blinds business in 90 days. They said, okay. And now we were with Wayfair. Lo and behold, we did some other uh, smaller companies, and then Lowe's came by and Home Depot, and they said, "What's this? What are they doing? They're helping all these other companies. How do they get into these? Did Sears and Home and Wayfair get into the blinds business?" Found out it was us, and we were kind of beating their butts anyway online at this point. And so Lowe's contacted us to see if they could do it as well, and we were just one deal point away from doing it. There was a legal issue about liability, and it was taking forever. Well, we put them on the back burner. In the meantime, Home Depot shows up and says, "Well, we'd like to consider something like that too." Well, they didn't pussyfoot around. They actually made us an offer and said, "We not only want to do this alliance, we want to buy you."
Amazing.
And that was great. We did that, and now we're using the same technology in all their stores, online, and we've used it to move into other product categories like custom decks, custom doors, custom vanities, many other categories, and we're in the billions now. Where it started off as just me and my car.
Jay, this is fascinating. I'm curious though, like, was that the idea from the start to be that little brother? Was that why you built that technology in the first place? Or did it kind of happen by accident over time that those big retailers were interested and then it started something else?
It was definitely not in our vision. Well, frankly, I had no vision when I started. All I wanted to do was sell blinds online. That was my vision.
Right.
And eventually I realized that I could actually expand this a lot more, and I would try anything. One of my big core values is experiment without fear and to evolve continuously. So this was just another one of those experiments. This one happened to work particularly well, but there was definitely no forethought in it, and it only came luckily because Sears contacted us, and we by default moved into the big brother little brother. But if we had it to do it again, this is now that we know we could have done it. I wish I would have thought of it sooner and actually pursued it. Although that's very easy to say. It could be the timing just worked out well.
So I want to make this very concrete for our audience. When we're talking about a technology, it sounds like you're talking about customization. I know back then it must have been very different and it's evolved over the years, but what are you referring to when you're saying, hey, we built this technology and we sold it? Is it a hardware technology? Is it a software technology? What are we talking about here?
It's software. We ended up with 125 engineers. People think they ask me, "You sold blinds online? Did you have any employees, or did you just like do this out of your garage?" Well, it was, we had a lot of people, 500 when I left, and the software was built to allow us to sell custom blinds, but also to not be dependent on selling only blinds. We wanted it to be product agnostic. So we could also then move into other product categories. We decided not to do that because we wanted to just focus and felt like there was still low hanging fruit. Once we moved to Home Depot, well, voila, we now have all these experts in all these different product categories. Their website already had customers looking for these products, and that made it much easier to do it and less risky.
Do
At
you
that time, I had my money and there was no risk
right?
for me. For them, they risk. Yeah.
Do you think there's an opportunity to do something like that with every kind of e-commerce company? What type of brand, do you see today have these types of opportunities to them? And obviously, I'm not talking about, customization technology specifically, but, when we look at just the overall big brother, little brother strategy, how can that be replicated with, e-commerce businesses that are listening to this? What are some other examples maybe that you've seen that are practical
Well,
to think about?
there's a lot of companies that do some niche product, like uh, maybe subscription signups, and you're really good at doing subscriptions. So you contact Shopify, and you get them to use you in all of their software as a component. You could be a learning platform where you somehow aggregate data and get that into certain types of files or accessible reports, and you build that into learning modules like some knowledge base that some company already has. So you partner with them, or you partner with an HR company to get them to use your system. It's another form of a channel partner, but it's not just a channel partner. It's someone who you've seriously integrated with and decided this is something that is going to power the growth in a meaningful way. It's not just let's just see if we can get them as a customer.
Right.
It's this is the kind of customer that we've identified as a sweet spot. And it, like anything, it just takes creative thought and putting yourself in a room and saying, who can use our product? Who is missing? Where is there some a hole, a vacuum in their product assortment that we can fill? And which one of those will we be able to make money with and be able to scale? So that's how you do it. Just think about where you can fit in other companies and ride their coattail. Because you don't have to spend money on customer acquisition.
Yeah.
You have to spend money on the integration. But once you've done it once, it's much easier to replicate it, and you can scale that pretty easily.
At that point, did you see yourself as an e-commerce company first, or did you see yourself as a software company first?
We never saw ourselves as an e-commerce or a software company. I think we saw ourselves as a direct marketing company powered by technology. So we use technology just like we use the internet, but I didn't want to ever say we were an e-commerce company, because that meant the only way we would grow was through e-commerce.
Yeah.
Well, how about people who just knew us and called us? Is that an e-commerce company? Or somebody who got a direct mail flyer and then just gave us a call?
Right.
Does e-commerce have anything to do with that? I mean, if you you call yourself some limited way, then you don't think of big brother, little brother applications that could apply, because you've defined yourself too narrowly.
That is such an important shift in thinking.
And we never thought about doing all these customizable products either at the beginning.
Right.
It was just, let's sell blinds.
Yeah.
But as we started building the technology, we said, if we just spend another 20 or 30% on what would have been, let's say it was $1 million, but we can spend $1.5 million and have it product agnostic, then that would really help us be able to diversify. And that's what I always wanted to do. I mentioned that before, but the idea of being more diversified decreased risk for me and gave us opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
So the downside was pretty low. The upside was enormous. And anytime you do anything, you're always looking for the asymmetric risk, where the downside is low, the upside has very high potential. And that's exactly what this was.
Yeah, and I think it also
How
provided
would you not do that? I'm sorry.
Totally. I'm also thinking, right, it also provided you with a very unique competitive advantage, right? Like the other, people that sell online or define them as e-commerce they can compete on some aspects of your business, but not all of it, right? The technology
Correct.
companies can compete with some aspect, but not all of it either. So you have that unique angle that really makes you advantageous in this space. I'm curious here, like obviously we're talking about this, there's many upsides, you guys have grown a ton, but what were some of the biggest challenges that, brands typically see when facing that approach?
Well, the biggest downside that we saw in doing the big brother, little brother, and was to position our competitors to be pretty damn good, because we were the people answering the questions. We were the people doing the merchandising, and we were the best. And now we were making Sears and Wayfair the best along with us. So we had to decide, do we really even want to do this and prop up competitors? But what we did is we developed a private label that was only for that channel. So Sears and Wayfair had private label that was our private label. And therefore, as we had our private label, they wouldn't, and they didn't even look at it that closely, but they were not able to say, we're going to use a Wayfair brand or we're going to do a Sears
Right.
brand. It was our brand, which made it much stickier and made it more likely that they would not stop. The other, which brings up the second point, and that is a lot of people don't want to go to Amazon because they feel Amazon, or they don't want to deal with Chinese companies because they're going to steal the technology and learn everything there is, and then they don't use you anymore. Well, we wanted to provide stickiness where these big companies just couldn't be without us. Now,
Right.
when we sold to Home Depot, part of the deal was within 2 weeks we had to completely stop selling through Sears and Wayfair, which made sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And funny enough about it, we didn't have a huge amount of revenue from it,
Mm,
but it did make us very appealing to Home Depot and Lowe's
I can
because they
imagine.
saw the revenue that we already had from just being good and profitable. We were always profitable and expanding margins. I mean, that's a good thing. But they also saw that our technology was good enough to be able to integrate with these big companies, with Sears and Wayfair. And that gave a halo effect on us, that our engineers were good, that our technology was good, and it made them more comfortable that when we integrated with them, it would work.
Mm,
So, and it also gave us something that we were building that was pretty damn fun. So we
I'm
were
sure.
building and working with these big companies, and we were this tiny little company. It just gave us this, made us puff out and feel pretty good.
I love that.
I still think about it and smile because I can't believe we did it.
Now, I mean, you've built something incredible. If some people are thinking about this strategy and they're thinking, I want to find a way to do this with our brand. If you were an advisor to a brand or a company, right, that's thinking of, this type of strategy, what would your biggest piece of advice be?
What do you have that no one else has, and what do other people need? And how do you integrate and show the value to them that makes it as easy as possible for this big brother to integrate with you?
Amazing.
What is the value prop that you have to them, that and you can make it so easy for them that they have to say yes. Now, if you're a big brother, you can pretty much deal with whoever you want. But I mean, even the AI companies right now, um, they're buying up all these smaller companies
Yeah.
to get some capabilities, whether it's, well, anything. You know what they're doing.
Yep.
So that's the same thing that you can do. It doesn't have to be AI. It doesn't have to be high tech. Blinds was not a high tech business, but we were using technology to its greatest advantage.
I love that. Jay, we're pretty much out of time already. I can't believe it went by so fast. But I'm sure you've got so much more to say on this and so many more lessons of business. Now, you've got a book. So you've got Lead from the Core, the 4 Principles for Profit and Prosperity. That's, I'm sure, available everywhere and that people can buy and read to learn more about you and your successes. But if people want to find you on other channels or want to know more about you, where should they go?
Well, I do have jsteinfeld.com as a website, but I'm very active on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can ask questions there. And I do some interesting posts every now and then, and I'm happy to connect with people and learn from them as well.
Amazing. Jay, it was an honor having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for all
Raphael, thank
this
you.
advice, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much. Good to be here.